on the Harbor One hotline. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, and I'm jealous. You guys are going to Matunic tomorrow.
Well, listen, I threw the offer out. You seemed kind of not that excited about it, but I hope you'll join us when we're at the Beachcomber on June 7th for the road show.
Yeah, I think I can manage that. Matunic a little early for me to get up and drive there, unless you got a bed for me to stay the night before.
Well, we could. Shime doesn't need his room anymore. I think we're staying at the Holiday Inn by Marriott or whatever it's, however they phrase it. Where are we staying?
Presidential suite.
There's no presidential suite.
At the Hampton Inn, everybody's the president.
At Holiday Inn.
We spare no expense around here, as you're familiar with, Mike.
No, I've been to the Matunic Oyster Bar, and it's a great place. And they actually they will give you a tour out on the boat if you want to, if you can arrange it, and show you where the oysters are harvested. It's very cool.
A sunset cruise, if you will.
I've heard a lot about this restaurant. Honestly, a lot of people speak very highly of it. So, but speaking highly, that was a big win by my beloved Bruins on Tuesday night.
Listen, they've played pretty well, and the rest of the conference is sort of, it's sort of a crapshoot right now. I didn't like the way Florida looked the other night. They were really sloppy, and the Bruins played very well, no question about it. But, I thought Florida looked like they're just a team that likes to score goals and doesn't have a lot of structure, and that's a dangerous place to be going into the playoffs.
We were talking yesterday about maybe the only concern going into the playoffs really being the power play, and a couple giveaways the other night. Is that Pasta being rusty? Are you worried about that at all heading into the playoffs, or not so much?
You'd certainly like to see it a little more functional than dysfunctional, and right now it's a little bit dysfunctional, but they've had so many guys out of the lineup, and especially their key guy, that you got to give them a little bit of a break here. But looks like they're going to play a full roster against Buffalo and then sort of rest people in the finale against Toronto. So I guess they have some time to work on it, and they need to work on it. It doesn't have to be 50%, but it has to be at least, opportunistic. When they get a chance and it's a key moment, they have to be able to cash in. Right now, I'd have to say that it is a concern.
Mike, when it comes to resting guys, whether tonight or tomorrow night, Cassidy said definitely not tonight, but going to tomorrow, maybe some. Who would you rest if you would rest any?
I would definitely rest Bergeron. I'd give him a break. I'd probably think about Marchand too. He's been fighting it, and open net goal notwithstanding, he could probably use the time. And I think Pasternak probably could use another game under his belt, and Lindholm probably could too. But I would not hesitate to rest any of these guys that are regulars.
Mike, when you look at this team and you look at like other sports, we always talk about, you got to play good on defense. Your offense got to be, get it going. When you look at the Bruins, like what's the one area for them to really be successful in the playoffs in advance that they have to make sure that they're doing in the postseason?
I don't think there's any question about their defense. Maybe there's a little bit of a question mark about their goaltending being consistent, or who's it going to be. We don't know at this point, but I don't think there's any doubt that they're going to work hard on the defensive side of the puck. The question is, can they get the balanced scoring that they need to get it from the third and fourth lines? Because when teams have the chance to focus in the playoffs on a particular line or two lines, in the case of the Bruins, then they're going to get shut down once in a while. And you need people on the third and fourth line to grind it out and punch in a goal here or there and make a difference when it counts. So that's kind of my concern from the offensive end point, and I think most people would agree with that assessment.
It's interesting. Bergeron, when it came to the Bruins' all-time goal list, moved up with 2 on Sunday and passed Ray Bourque, which was it made me pause for a minute and think about Ray Bourque and
as a defenseman to have that
defenseman to be on that list and be where he was on that list. Pretty amazing.
It is amazing, and I think I told you the first time I saw Ray play as an 18-year-old, and his first practice, I thought immediately this guy is going to be special. And who knew he was going to be that special for, 22 years, I think it was? I mean, he was just amazingly consistent, amazingly strong, and delivered when you needed it to be delivered. It was a remarkable career and clearly Hall of Fame worthy.
Well, Mike, when you look at this season overall, it's going to be Jake DeBrusk, the up and down roller coaster of emotions with him. But what do you take away from him being named the Bruins Masterton Trophy nominee?
I don't know what to take away from that. I don't know what he was fighting besides coaching issues or ice time, or it doesn't make. I mean, it wasn't like he had cancer or something, but it was, he clearly was a guy that maybe they decided to reward for fighting through some of the internal issues that they had. But for me, it's not even worth another second of discussion, to be honest with you.
I know who he wanted to be fighting at the Squire. Guy wanted to beat me up.
Oh, yeah, he wanted to beat you up. But you had glasses. Mike, when the one point that you talked about, and I think Scheim has been kind of beating the drum on now, Linus is being the goalie for the playoffs. When does Cassidy have to say, all right, here is our goalie for the playoffs, and what kind of leash do you give that guy to? Because both of them, it seems like they're relatively, Swayman is definitely inexperienced. Linus, seems like this is the first real action he's going to get as, all right, the guy, if he is the guy. When does Cassidy have to name that starter, or at least let these guys know, hey, you're going to be you're the number one goalie, and here's the kind of leash that you're going to get?
I think we've been down that road. I like the number one goalie, but other teams have chosen to go with 1 and 1A or 1 and 1 and 1. But I would like to think that he would have the ability to go to somebody and say, listen, we're going to start with you, and tell the other guy, we're going with the other guy, and you're going to have to wait your turn, but be ready, because in this case, it's really, is there a lot of difference between the two goaltenders at this point in time? Not a ton. Mm-hmm. So I would think the leash would be really tight, and that if he finds himself with a goaltender that's had a really bad game opening night, I think he can make a switch right away. But right now, it's clear that they haven't established somebody as the absolute go-to guy. So I think all bets are off when it comes to making a change.
Do you still think Swayman is the guy to get the number one spot?
I think so. I mean, I think in the long run, Swayman is going to be the guy, but I have to give Ullmark credit. He's played pretty well since he came back from his little noggin problem. And, you only can go by what you see. And what I've seen is a pretty good goaltender since he's come back. And in fact, before he got hurt, he was playing pretty well. So there's not a lot of difference between the two of them. But for me, I'd like to go with a guy that's, a little bit more athletic, a little bit more in your future than Ullmark, I think, is. But I can't really fault him for going with Ullmark if that's the case.
You know what I wanted to ask you, Mike, when it comes to whether it's Kyrie Irving here with Celtics fans or the Cleveland...
Kyrie Irving sucks.
The Cleveland Guardians at Yankee Stadium, has your perspective changed over the years when it comes to how players should respond to unruly fans?
Well, my perspective is that the whole world has changed. And you can't deal with fans the way you used to deal with them. I mean, I've taken a fan up the elevator at the old Boston Garden and slammed him around the elevator for a few times. That doesn't work anymore.
You did?
It's a great memory for me, actually.
How did that? I just need a little bit deeper on that story, please.
Well, I had a particularly bad game. It was an afternoon game at the Garden on a Saturday, and I was so pissed off at myself that I barely showered and ran out of the building, and I had to go down the stairs, and the elevator was crowded, nobody could get in it, and this guy kept yelling at me, a young kid kind of, and I just got I took it for a while, and then I said, enough's enough. We got to the front door, and it was backed up, and I grabbed him. The elevator had just emptied out, and I grabbed him, and the guard was there and said, "What are you doing, Mike?" when I grabbed the kid. And he said, "You're going to get in trouble here." And I said, "Don't worry about it." So I pushed the elevator button to the 10th floor of 150 Causeway. Then I rattled his cage a little bit, didn't do too much damage.
Right.
And then I left him on the 10th floor and took the elevator down.
Like Sonny from a
I felt
Bronx
much
Tale.
better.
Now you can't leave.
Great. Kid must have been terrified when that elevator door shut.
I bet he didn't say anything negative again about any player.
What a party story to be able to tell forever, though.
That's great.
Where is he now, Mike?
I don't know. I mean, he's still shaking, I think.
Yeah.
Mike,
He's one of those people who works for Twitter who's crying at work.
right. He's a keyboard tough guy. He's probably criticizing
Oh,
everybody.
maybe it was Draggeth Thy Nuts.
Yeah, it could be that. Hey, Mike, last
Could
one.
have been one of you guys.
Last one for me, real quick. How we talk about in sports like when guys have played in the playoff experience, and when you look at Linus and you look at Swayman, neither one of them have any. How important is that in hockey, like playoff experience?
It's really you can't underestimate it. I mean, it's a whole different approach, especially as you get further deeper into the playoffs. And I remember in that Too Many Men on the Ice game, everybody was nervous early on, and I watched the game sadly after a number of years. And when I first started in the first period, I was just like, couldn't wait to get rid of the puck. But as things settled down and I settled down, I started to move it better. I'd make tape-to-tape passes, and I was no Bobby Orr, but at least I had settled down. So it takes a while for you to get through the magnitude of the moment and make yourself feel at ease and get back to the game that you know best and the way you can play as properly as you can. And so it does take time. And there'll be some guys there, particularly now in goal, that might have some shaky moments, but it'll sort itself out after a game or two.
Being there the other night reminded me, we talk an awful lot, as we should, about Tom Brady playing at 45. What about Joe Thornton playing at 42 years old? First of all, how amazing is that? And do you think he's going to keep going?
I mean, I don't know if he's going to keep going or not, but just wish he'd get rid of that goddamn beard.
I know.
Gross. He's got things growing in there.
Well, or at least just for a minute. I mean, it's
Right.
It's almost completely gray at this point.
It's like a Pacific Northwest panhandle.
Listen, he's had a great career. He's sadly not been able to reach the mountaintop, and now they look like the team that could be a contender. But as I said, and maybe this is kind of a team that Joe is worthy of. They go for offense, but they forget about the other end of the rink, and that's not a good thing. So, I mean, I hope in his case at 42 that he does find a way to get there, but, he's not a go-to guy anymore. He's not Tom Brady. He's a bit player on a good team, and God bless him. He's still making a good living.
Mike, it seems as though the first round matchup for the Bruins will probably be the Carolina Hurricanes. I guess there's a slight chance that it isn't, but more than likely it's going to be the Hurricanes. I know you said the East seems to be a bit of a crapshoot, but how do you feel about a Bruins versus Hurricanes matchup in the first round?
Well, I don't mind it, despite the fact that they lost 3 in a row to the Hurricanes. When you see a team that has a goalie issue going into the playoffs, that's a major red flag, and Carolina seems to have that issue right now. And if I'm the Bruins, I'm not disappointed to get a team that's got a critical position that's sort of up in the air.
All right, Mike. Well, playoff time is here. We'll talk to you next week on Bruins Thursday. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Enjoy the oysters.
We will. Mike Milbury will be right back.